you said you always had an interest in hospice care. Why? What? Explain hospice care. Explain why you were interested in it.
I've been interested in it because you don't really learn a lot about it in school and in the community. It's kind of just like, death is kind of a hard topic, and a lot of people don't want to talk about it and discuss it, but it's something that we all have to face, one day. So that's why I was always interested in it. But, to learn how people are cared for at end of life, it's an important thing.
Yeah, and for you personally, you said you've always been interested in it. I mean, did you ever have like a loved one where you're like, hey, I've experienced this firsthand, or have heard about it, or was it just something you learned through school?
It was just something that we learned about briefly in school. I actually didn't really have a personal experience until recently when my husband's grandmother, she was diagnosed with cancer, and so they decided to put her under hospice care. And, I was kind of like, yeah, I think it'll be a good thing because I knew more about it then, so, yeah.
Yeah, kind of like, who is hospice care, or what is hospice care for, or like what kind of people is it for?
It's for people with terminal illnesses that have less than 6 months to live, according to their physician.
But does that necessarily mean that they will only live?
No, actually, research shows that when people undergo hospice care, they actually live longer than expected.
Really?
Yes.
Why is that?
Well, because we give such great care. We treat symptoms. Of course, we can't cure the illness, but we can treat the symptoms and just give you an overall better quality of life for the time that you have left.
When should people consider it?
I would say whenever your doctor recommends it.
Yeah, and it's just kind of, how does someone get to that point? You said
when they have a terminal illness, so like cancer or end-stage COPD, end-stage heart failure, things like that.
What do you see on a daily basis then here at Pine Point?
On a daily basis, well, I see patients that are really sick, usually. And then I also see patients that are not as sick as they thought they were because, like I said, they have, a little bit more time than the 6 months because they're getting such great care.
So a little more time than 6 months. I mean, what could that mean? Like when you say 6 months is usually the expected.
The expected.
What would more time look like? How much more time?
It can be a year, it can be 2 years, it can be 3 years. We don't know.
Courtney, it might help if you explain a little bit about what kind of services are provided with hospice and inpatient versus outpatient.
Gotcha.
That might help inform some of what she's asking.
Okay.
Yeah.
So hospice services, we have inpatient and outpatient. So inpatient services are for people who are closer to end of life, so they are, really sick, having a lot of symptoms, shortness of breath, nausea, vomiting, a lot of pain. Outpatient is for people who still have a little bit more time. They're at home, they're a little bit more comfortable. They have a better, quality of life because they're able to do some of the things they still like to do, and they're not at that point yet.
Okay. Can you get off of hospice care once you're on it? Like, explain that.
Yes, you can graduate from hospice. We have patients that no longer meet hospice criteria, so they have much longer than 6 months, that we expect. They're not having any uncontrolled symptoms. They have great, lab work, and they're just doing well overall.
What kind of success stories, or kind of explain maybe someone that you're thinking of that has had this, or what that looks like?
Well, a big one is people who've had a stroke. So, you can have a stroke, and afterwards you'll have a lot of symptoms, and you're not able to walk and talk and eat and swallow and things like that. But we've had patients that have gone on our services, and we've treated them all their symptoms and got them physical therapy, and they just up walking again and talking and eating, and then we have to graduate them.
That must be really exciting. What's the graduation process look like? Is it a celebration? Do you guys throw a party for them? What does that mean?
To be honest, patients don't like leaving us, so they're kind of sad. Families get upset, but they no longer meet our criteria. So usually it's not a celebration, to be honest, because they love our care, love our patients, our nurses, everybody. So they just get sad that they have to leave hospice care. It sounds weird, but that's kind of what happens.
Yeah, explain it a bit more, because I think people still are not. I personally still am not fully grasping. What do you mean they miss hospice care?
Well, we have nurses that come out every week. We have aides that come and help with baths, and they get a lot of medication management, a lot of education, visits from nurses. It just gives you more confidence and to know that you have somebody taking care of you. So when you no longer have hospice, you don't really have anybody coming out to see you and to help the families and give you supplies and hospital beds and oxygen and all the things that you need, to help with your symptoms and things like that. So, when you lose that, it kind of feels like, am I going to be okay without all of this care?
Gotcha. So they feel like they're extra loved, I guess,
Yes.
under hospice care. They have more people.
More support. Yeah.
Awesome. How many people do you guys serve inpatient and outpatient here at Pine Point?
What's our census right now? That's wonderful. Well, we love more than that. We love double if we could that, but it's usually, we like it to be more than 40 outpatient. And then inpatient around 10 to 12, I'd say.
Okay, so they really are getting
mention that we're the only ones who do pediatrics as well.
And that we're the oldest, been around the longest.
Oh, really?
And we were built off of charity,
Oh,
Yes.
That's wonderful.
volunteer,
So if there's 10 inpatient, they must be getting really a lot of care because there must be enough.
around the clock, 24 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wonderful. What is there anything about hospice care that you wish folks knew about it that they may not know, or that is something that you learned that is very interesting, or that you've kind of come about that you didn't know?
Well, I would like for people to know that when you go under hospice care, we don't hasten the death process. We don't kill people, that's not what we do. Like I said, research shows that once you go into hospice care, you may live even longer than what your doctor expected.
Our big reason for this story is because of Jimmy Carter. I'm sure you guys heard, right? He goes into hospice care. The media freaks out. We're like, oh no, does that mean he's going to die that week, right? No one
Right.
really fully grasped what
Yeah.
hospice care means, but obviously
Right.
it's been months now.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on just kind of folks' reactions, hospice care, and they think this, and obviously it's quite the opposite.
It's
situation.
quite the opposite. I think it just means that he's at the point now where he needs a little bit of extra eyes, a little bit more care. He will eventually pass on, but nobody knows when that will be. But in the meantime, hospice will take great care of him. They'll make sure he's not in pain, not having any uncontrolled symptoms like nausea, vomiting, shortness of breath. And if he does, they'll jump right on it and make sure he's okay.
Yeah,
And make sure he has a better quality of life for the time that he does have left.
And he was one of the outpatient ones, right? Because he was at home, so that was one
Yes.
of the home ones. Okay.
Patty brought up, we might want to talk about respite care and what's available to help loved ones.
So for our outpatients, being a caregiver is really hard. And families, it's sometimes it's a burden. Of course they love their loved one and wants to take care of them, but everybody needs a break. So our inpatient unit provides what we call respite care. So we'll bring the patient into our inpatient unit and we'll take care of them for the time that the family needs to go on vacation or just have a break at home, needs to have renovations done, whatever they need, or just for no reason.
What
Yeah.
other care do you guys provide? Respite care, and then what else is there that's big?
We have bereavement services. Anybody that's on our services after, the patient passes on, the family will get 13 months of bereavement. So counseling and, things like that.
Oh, that is really nice.
Yeah. And honestly, we'll get patients that transfer from the hospital. And, it's a risk of if somebody's really sick, by the time they get over here, they may not, make it here. But at least that family will have the 13 months of bereavement. Yeah.
Anything else that we're missing about hospice care? About what should be understood? Or
So they mentioned that we're the only hospice that cares for pediatric patients. So
that's interesting. Yeah,
yes.
explain that. I think
that's
people
another
don't
thing that
think-
people don't really want to talk about, of course, but kids also have terminal illnesses. Even babies are born with terminal illnesses and heart conditions and things like that. So we also take care of kids.
Pastoral care.
Yes, we have chaplains.
Y'all want to give her a
I love this.
Yeah.
It's like a whole team effort
Yeah.
here.
Why don't you tell her?
Pets and then
Okay.
chaplain.
Okay. So we have a team here. We don't just have nurses and physicians. We have social workers and chaplains. And what she meant by the pets is, of course, pets are a part of, a lot of people's families. So whenever patients come inpatient, we allow their pets to come in and stay with them if they want.
That's good. So it really feels like home.
Yes.
That kind of makes sense when you say that they're sad to leave because they're really getting the second home away from home.
Yes.
Which I think is important to equate with hospice because I think people are just unsure, like, what exactly does it look like until
Right.
you're faced with it.
Right. We want the best transition for the patient possible. Easy, no pain. That's what we want.
Do you see this being something you want to continue in hospice care?
Definitely.
Yeah, beautiful. If you want to say and spell your first and last name and then give your title.
Okay, my name is Courtney Randall, Courtney Randall, and I am a hospice nurse practitioner.
Thank you, Courtney. I learned so much about hospice care.
One more.
So we have a veterans program as well.
Oh, okay.
So we honor our patients that are veterans. We do a penny ceremony for all of our patients that are veterans.
Awesome. Thanks, Courtney.
No
You did
problem.
great.
Thank you.
Did awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever done a media interview before, but that was awesome.
Thank